Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Spider Pig here, and today we're going to be testing two different things in DCS Open Beta 1.5. Now, as a kid, I fell in love with the F-14 Tomcat. I think anybody who ever watched the movie Top Gun also has fallen in love with this aircraft. And as an historical buff, I love the fact that the AIM-54 Phoenix missile was specifically designed for this aircraft. The AIM-54 missile is a long-range missile designed to work beyond visual range at the range of about 100 miles out and flies at the speed of Mach 5. Now the way this missile works, and you can see in the video here, it kind of goes flying high into the atmosphere, and then it kind of glides down onto its target. You'll see once it gets closer to the target that it'll just kind of glides right down into it and kind of impacts on it. And it's kind of a neat missile in the way that works. Now that technique is basically called gravitational potential energy. So you know, at the apex of that height, it just grabs all the energy it can and goes right down on the target. It's got its own radar system, so once it's launched, it's obviously launched by the radar of the F-14, and then halfway through it also just double checks with the F-14 to make sure it's still on track, and then about 10 to 11 miles out, it uses its own radar tracking to track the target to its final destination and destroy it. So Wags was talking in his Q&A about how great the new missile air-to-air missile system is within, you know, the new DCS 1.5. So I figured, hey, let's test it out. Now, I don't usually fly air-to-air missions. I usually fly with the A-10C or the Huey. I usually, you know, drop ordnance on the ground and things like that. So I'm not really familiar with missile systems in air-to-air combat. I did fly a lot of BMS Falcon, but in that training we only used guns and kind of honed our dogfighting skills. I'm fairly new to the F-15. I barely know how to use the radar systems, but I've learned how to use the home-on jammer method. So basically, I have 6 targets who are flying from different directions coming at me, and they're trying to jam my radar, and that's what I'm homing on in order to fire upon them. So once I get a good, you know, home-on jammer signal, I pretty much launch the missile, and I try to stay with them for about 30 seconds to make sure, you know, the missile's on track, and you know, just in case he needs to check back in for any course correction. So that's what I've been doing on this flight. I ended up shooting 6 Phoenix missiles and hitting 6 targets. Now, when the U.S. kind of was working on developing the F-14, the F-14, the AUG-9 radar system was able to track 24 targets, and I think and fire on 6 of them simultaneously. So this is kind of as close as we're able to do. I've had to modify the F-15 in order to, you know, use the Phoenix missile. Now I've done this in the old DCS 1.2 version, and at that version I was only able to hit a target from about 34 miles out, which is still considerably long range. With this test, I was able to get, you know, anywhere between 60 and 80 miles out without a problem. It seems like they definitely made improvements to the Phoenix missile, which is really, really cool. I definitely enjoyed it. And, you know, it just was a lot of fun to fly and a lot of fun to fire. I did originally fly this with the Oculus Rift, but I forgot to save the replay, so I had to kind of just re-record it real quickly on my PC just without the Oculus Rift, so that's why you won't see the Oculus Rift kind of method. But I did enjoy it, and it did work quite well. Now in the future I'm going to try this again and see if, you know, how easy it is to, you know, run away from an AIM-54. I guess it's in the real world. I don't know if it's feasible. Obviously it's at least feasible on one end, but you know, most missiles, you know, in their early days, the success rate was not that good. You know, if you look at Vietnam era missiles, most Vietnam F-4 pilots fired multiple missiles at one target just to hedge their bets to hit it. So it's not uncommon for missiles to have kind of a low probability, but as the missiles improved, they gotten better and better, and now, you know, like the AIM-9 and the Sidewinder and the Sparrow and the AMRAAM are definitely have a higher, you know, statistical kill ratio. So things have definitely improved since the early days of missiles. But the AIM-54 is definitely a cool one. Now, here's the cool historical fact about this. Back in the day, Iran was a U.S. ally, and they decided to buy an aircraft from us. So they gave them the option between the F-15 and the F-14, and Iran went with the F-14. I believe they sold them 79 F-14s, along with a whole bunch of Phoenix missiles. Now, when Iran decided to go evil, the U.S. techs that were there on the ground supposedly disabled the F-14s and the Phoenix missiles before they left. But if you listen to Iranian stories, they're really used it in the Phoenix missile to some success. We don't have actual numbers, but there's a couple books written about the subjects that actually detail some air-to-air kills with the Phoenix missile by Iran. And in fact, during the Iran-Iraq war, they actually used the F-14 as kind of an AWACS aircraft, and Iraqi pilots actually got to learn the signal, the radar signals, and used to run away when used to hear it. So it was actually a very effective kind of aircraft and missile combination. But it was also one of my favorites, so I figured I'd do this test in open beta, and obviously it's working a lot better. Now I just really want them to release the F-14 model, and I know there's a company that's working on it, so I'm really glad to hear that. The other test I did was, you can't really see it, but I do have an Apple Watch, and I wanted to see how many calories a person burns flying, in DCS. So I was flying with the Rift, and the original flight I did was about 45 minutes. In that 45 minutes, I burned 196 calories. So, it's almost 100 calories in what? Okay, I can't really do the math, but it's not bad. I mean, I think that's a fairly decent amount of calories. I think, with the Oculus Rift, there's definitely more of a sensational that you're in the environment. I will have to do further testing of how much, I burn without the Oculus Rift, do more comparison of that. But I think it was kind of neat to test that, with the Oculus Rift, you definitely, have faster heart rate and you burn more calories. So keep on flying, people. It's healthy for you. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next week.